Hello everyone, Guillaume here, host of the E-Commerce Wizards podcast, where I feature leaders in e-commerce and business. Today's guest is Jonas. He's the founder of OnlineJobs.ph, and I'm very excited to have you here today with me, John. I've known your stuff for many years. I read your newsletter no later than this morning, and even like a decade ago, I've watched one of your courses there. It was like how to be the CEO in the company, how to properly delegate and that stuff. So that was really interesting. And today we'll be talking about outsourcing in the Philippines to grow your business or your e-commerce store. And before we get started and dive into the main topic, we'll move on to our sponsorship message.
This episode is brought to you by MageMontreal. If a business wants a powerful e-commerce online store that will increase their sales, or to move piled up inventory to free up cash reserves, or to automate business processes to reduce human processing errors, our company, MageMontreal, can do that. We've been helping e-commerce stores for over a decade. Here's the catch. We're specialized and only work on the Adobe Magento e-commerce platform, also known as Adobe Commerce. We're among only a handful of certified companies in Canada. We do everything Magento related. If you know someone who needs design, support, training, maintenance, or a new e-commerce website, email our team at support@MageMontreal.com or go to MageMontreal.com. That's MAGE Montreal.com.
All right, John, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. This is cool.
Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey, which I know is a bit exceptional?
Yeah, so I'm a husband. I'm a father. I have 5 kids. I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. I am quite religious. I love to ski and ride my bike, specifically with my wife and my kids. We ride mountain bikes a lot. I'm an entrepreneur, and so that like probably just runs like in my veins. I don't know. I know that when I graduated from college in 2003, I had a job for 8 months, and my only goal during that time was to quit my job because I'm just a terrible employee. And so it just didn't, like, the incentive structure didn't work for me. Like I do good work, I get paid. I do bad work, I get paid. I get paid the same amount either way. For me, it just wasn't, I don't know. It didn't work super well. And so I worked every second I could to build my own thing. And after like 8 months, I finally had an opportunity where I was making a tiny bit of money and I knew I could survive, and I quit my job. And that was 2004. And I have worked from home ever since. I started off, I was just doing little piddly things on the internet and kind of built some software that would build websites, and it was like an automated thing. We built crappy websites none of them are online anymore, and but they were designed to get traffic and had ads on them, and people would click the ads and you make money, and it worked, and it worked quite well. I was ranked at the top of Google for like car insurance and life insurance and work from home and network marketing and wrinkle cream and vacuum cleaner. And like I was at the top of Google for everything. And it was amazing until it wasn't. and Google started making changes, and which was fine. I knew it wasn't going to last forever anyway. So, but in that time I was like trying to build this stuff, and there's just so much to do. And every entrepreneur knows this. There's so much work to do. I tried hiring other people, and I was so frustrated. Like I hired people locally, and the first thing they did was when they saw what I was doing, they're like, oh yeah, I can do this on my own. See ya. I tried that 4 times. That sucked. I tried hiring someone in India, and that was,
yeah, you're quite vocal about your opinion on this. It
was messy at best, right? Dude, look, I love India. Like, it's cool. I have Indian friends. I love their food. I have nothing against them. Just outsourcing there doesn't work really well. It's really hard. And some people can make it work, but it's really hard. The culture difference between the US and India is just so much. It's just really hard. And
I think we're guilty of that because US and Canada and Europe is looking for cheap solution. So they're gearing the economy and training people to where like, let's provide cheap solution. But if you're looking for quality, then it can just be a mismatch, and you have to find the people who are quality driven rather than cheap solution driven, which is what we're trying to get them to provide.
Yeah. It's just really hard. And most people think outsourcing is a disaster. It's a headache. It's a babysitting job because for a long time, everybody in the Western world, the US, Canada, Australia, the UK, whatever, went to India because the thought was, oh, there's 1 billion people there. You've got to be able to find good people, right? Which you can, just the culture is so limiting. So then I found Elance when I was trying to do this. Elance doesn't exist anymore. Today it's Upwork. Elance merged with Odell. You've got to remember that. Elance
Yeah, I do.
Or Upwork. No, Elance and Odesk merging together to form the behemoth of Upwork. Hired someone from there, and I thought it was amazing. And guy wrote a bunch of articles for me, and I was like, yes, I finally figured this outsourcing thing out. This is awesome. And then he sent me these articles, 50 articles, and I was so excited. And then I realized, wait a minute, that's all he'll do. I have to do everything else for this. I have to check him for plagiarism. I've already paid him because I didn't realize. The first one's good. The second one's good. The third one's good. Oh crap, I start from the back. The 50th one's plagiarized. The 49th one's plagiarized. The 48th one's plagiarized. Oh crap, this sucks. And now I have to write headers and resource boxes and links and submit them. And I had to do all this, just like burden fell on my shoulders, realizing, oh yeah, the incentive at Upwork is for them to do a job, get paid, move on, so that they can get a review and move on and get paid more. As a small business owner, man, that was really hard.
I know, I can relate. It is so hard. There's just so much work to do, and resources are limited. So you just go in overdrive mode, say, hey, let's do 80 hours, 90 hours a week. Yeah. But there's a limit to how long you can sustain that pace. And, before start to have some issues, either health or, your other areas of your life are not in balance.
It's rough. It's rough. And it wasn't, so, I mean, I was ready to give up. Like this, I just have to do it on my own. And I think a lot of people get to that point. Like hiring people is really hard. It's not worth it. Having employees, it just doesn't work. I just need to do it myself. Right. And I was there. And like you said, I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. I hate that because I'm a family guy and I had one child at home and we were expecting another, and I don't want to work 60 hours a week. I want to spend time with my kids. And I had a conversation with a guy who said to me, when you're ready to start outsourcing some of this stuff, make sure you go to the Philippines with it. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah, because, and this was super eye-opening to me. He says, in India, when you say something to them and they say yes, that means, yes, I heard something come out of your mouth. It doesn't mean, yes, I understood what you said. And I like, what again?
I learned as a management tool, I have to ask anybody now worldwide, please re-explain to me in your own words what I just requested to be sure that we understand each other well. Some might see it as patronizing or weird the first time, so I pad it and explain it and I set it up, but then I expect them to explain it back to me so I can see if they missed key bullet points or not.
Yeah, and that's so good. Such good advice. So he gave me a reference where I could hire someone and I didn't. And, I just like the typical things that people are feeling. Like, I don't know if I can keep someone busy full time. I don't know if I can afford this. I don't know if they can actually do good work. How do I trust them? I felt all of those things. And after a couple of months, I finally just decided it doesn't matter. Like I can't keep doing what I'm doing. I have to keep trying other things. So he gave me a reference to an agency where I could hire someone, and they said, do you want a webmaster or a programmer? And I was like, well, I want a content writer. They said, do you want a webmaster or a programmer? Like, okay, I'll take a webmaster. And so they basically just pulled a guy off the streets, and he spoke pretty good English, not great. And he wasn't a webmaster by any means. Like they gave him a little bit of training, but it was the most liberating experience of my life. This guy's full-time job was to do anything I asked him to do, anything I could train him to do. And he was eager to do the work, and he was willing to learn. And what I taught him, he would learn. And And that whole thing, like the articles and the submitting that I just talked about, he and I implemented that whole process, and he did all the work. I just had to teach him how to do it. And it was so amazing. It was like there were two of me. And I just kept doing that with him over and over. We just kept implementing processes. And I finally realized, like, this is what I had hoped to find in outsourcing. I didn't know that it would be, and I'm not sure that it needs to be country specific, but it just turned out that the Philippines was different than elsewhere. And I had no idea of that, but just different. And then since then I have like 40 people on my team in the Philippines full time, and we built this job board that hundreds of thousands of employers have used. And we have almost 2 million Filipino profiles, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I mean, we've hired some people. Actually, this podcast is produced by people hired in the Philippines through OnlineJobs.ph in part, plus other agencies, external providers there. So it's a mix, and the social media promotion of it after that is done through Filipino VA also. Because it just makes sense as a company say, okay, well, what's my marketing budget to get this thing off the ground? Well, limited, say, okay, and then I can hire someone in the Philippines full time, and I can pay them like maybe twice more than what they would earn locally if they had a local job. And well, I still get to pay much less than if I had someone here locally. It's a win-win, They're happy to earn twice more, and I'm happy to just pay less in general and save money, and then say, oh, let's try to get this thing off the ground,
Yeah, and you're making a difference in more than just like, oh, I'm paying them more than what they would have otherwise made, and I'm saving money. That's cool. But like, I didn't realize this at the time. You're affecting their family and their kids' lives. Like traditional Filipino families, the parents go to work, the grandparents raise the children, and the grandparents are tired, and it's hard. And what I've seen with so many people now is those parents are staying at home. They're not going overseas, which is the traditional Filipino dream, which is go overseas and work and send money home to your kids and never see your kids again. And instead, they're working at home and they're raising their families, and they don't have these 2-hour commutes to Manila or to Florida or whatever. And it's just so good for them. You change generations of lives because of it, which is, that by itself is like so amazing.
That is huge. What you said, I had not realized that it prevents the whole I have to immigrate, phase of their life to send money back home. I can stay home, work with Zoom, whatever else, and just upload my work and get paid, and don't need to immigrate.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I've seen a lot of that, and I've had a lot of my team say, "Thank you so much. I thought I would have to leave my kids," or I know people that have left their kids. Like, you have a blind son. He's living in the Philippines with your sister, and you're in Dubai. That sucks.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
And we're keeping them at home. And then the other side is like, people, you never thought you'd be able to find such talent, or that you could find talent so easily, like a video editor or an audio editor or a social media marketing person, that it's so easy to find these people. That's a big deal for a lot of employers when they first see this.
Yeah, agreed with that. I had an interesting experience, and we can talk about it, like the plus and the minus, like what's both that we need to be aware of. So there's a lot of positive that I've seen, lots of loyalty from people in the Philippines. Of course, like all time, you have to check your stuff and trust progressively and so on. But I've seen lots of loyalty. I've seen lots of positive, lots of good skill set also, like a lot of people with like bachelor degree. Then you can say, oh, is it as good as a bachelor degree from Harvard? Well, no, but it's still a bachelor degree, and it's a well-educated person that, it's more affordable, and very often they tend to be very dedicated to your company and cause, to really embrace it. I had some people from the Philippines stays for years. Like I have Sophia in mind. She was 7 years with me. I just loved working with her. Company grew. Eventually, the person didn't grow, unfortunately, but it happens through all countries. Had to part ways there, but I think you can have a pretty successful hires for the long run with people dedicated to your company from the Philippines.
Yeah, that first person I hired from that agency still works for me today. That was 2005.
That's awesome.
And I have people that I hired in 2007 and 2008 and 2010 and 2000. Yeah, like they all still work for me.
That's pretty awesome.
And they're like you said, trust progressively, which is good. They really want to be honest with you. The Philippines is a third world country. They don't want to be called a third world country. They want to be called an emerging economy. But it's hard to find a job there. And when they get a job with a foreign employer, which in Philippines has an interesting culture behind that, where like most places they're like, oh, my stupid American boss, he doesn't know. It's not how the Philippines is. Like they look up to you as their foreign boss. Like they'll brag about you on Friday night with their friends. And then you give them this situation where they're working for a foreign boss and they're making good money and they're working from home on their own hours. And it's a really good situation. Once they get a job, they don't want to lose that job and they want to be honest with you to make sure that you're happy. And because culturally, they're a pleasing culture. They want to make people happy. And so they're willing to do things to make sure that you're happy. In all of this, there are some caveats.
Yes, of course. You have to learn. I've learned about the 13th month pay after I had hired someone. Say, oh, on your country, there's a 13th month and you expect that at the end of the year. I didn't know when you negotiate a salary. It was not that big of a deal, but like, okay, all right, now I know about it. There was another thing that I've learned the hard way at first. Like, hey, the guy just like disappeared on me. Like he wasn't comfortable with the situation. And then I learned there's a concept called going shy. It's like, okay, so now I've learned how to prevent that. You say, well, don't go shy on me, and very often they'll start laughing. That you know their culture a little bit, and then you say, if there's a problem, I want you to come and talk to it. Come talk to me about it, and I don't want you to run away, and we'll look at how to handle it together. So they have that sort of what from our perspective might be a warped sense of honor, that if they feel they are not up to par or something, they might just like disappear and never ever hear from them again. They went shy. So is there any other like cultural things like this, or other like caveat that a business owner should be aware of when they hire their first Filipino?
Yeah, so this concept of going shy is like, this is the number one problem that people run into. And when you say it's like a warped sense of honor, that's in our minds, that's correct. In their culture, have you ever heard of the power distance index? Hofstadter's power distance index? So this was a study of cultures and how much do they respect authority? And it came from like, a big part of the study was like pilots, where you have a pilot and a co-pilot, and who's in charge. So you have the first mate in charge and the second mate as a subordinate, right? And what they found was in certain cultures where they respect authority, the second mate will never, ever question the first mate. So when the first mate's making poor decisions with an airplane, the second person will never, ever say something because they're not in charge. The first person's in charge, right? And so in the US, we're very low on this power distance index, where like Korea is very high. And that's why they had to change to having the second mate in charge and the captain being second, because the captain has the authority to say something when this guy's making poor decisions, right? And the Philippines is also very, very high on this. And so they don't want to overstep their bounds. They don't want to, if you're the one in charge, if you're the one responsible, then, well, that's your responsibility to make sure it's done right. And they know that. And they don't feel like they need to double or triple check the work, right? Because it's your responsibility to make sure it's right. They just have to do the work. So once you recognize this, that they don't want to, and then there's the pleasing side of their culture where they don't want to let you down. They don't want to feel embarrassed. They don't want to feel like you're disappointed in them. And if they feel these things, then they'll disappear. They would rather just walk away from a job than feel embarrassed in front of you. It's like losing face. And so what you're saying is a really big deal. Like hey, I always tell people this. I know you're going to have a problem with this. I know that at some point you're going to get stuck or you're not going to know what to do. And you're not going to want to say anything to me because I know that's your culture. You don't want to come to me, but you have to come to me. You have to, when there's a problem, you can't disappear. Do not disappear. Right. And that's a big part of the culture. And then there's like, just treat them well. Like these are not robots, which a lot of people go into outsourcing, think, oh, it's just a robot on the other side of the world. If they're not doing good work, just fire them. Right. And they're not robots.
That's general poor leadership.
It is.
Regardless how you see it, like, it's just poor leadership. You're not going to have much loyalty, much dedication, much like passion from the person. They're not into your cause if you treat any human being this way.
Totally. And yet I see it every day from employers that, they think that because they're overseas, that they don't have feelings, they don't have a family, they don't need time. They're just a robot. Right. And that's not the case. And these aren't magical humans. They're not like, you're not going to hire someone and they're going to build your website and write your content and do a sales page and build you a squeeze page and write you an ebook and to do your graphic design. That person doesn't exist.
Yeah, the same person does all of that. Of course, that's
right.
the unicorn hire.
Right. And you'd be surprised how often I see that from an employer. Like, I need someone who can. And they just keep going, like on and on and on and on. And I'm like, no, sorry.
That's like 10 freelancers right there.
Yeah, you just named 6 different roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry. So they're not magical. They're just people. They're smart people. They're educated people. They're loyal people. They're honest people, but they're people. And there are some cultural things where like you have to recognize it's not going to get done right the first time. Yeah. And that's a pitfall. Whatever you're asking them to do, they're not going to do it correctly the first time. And then you're going to have to provide more training and feedback. But what I've seen for me is when I'm willing to work through that with them, when you're willing to work through it with them, when they see that you care about them, is when they become a rock star. That's when they trust you, they're willing to go above and beyond. And that's kind of part of, that's a big mistake that people do is they go into this thinking, I don't know how I can trust this person, which is super common. And I did it. When the reality is they have that same feeling towards you. I don't know if I can trust this boss, but their feeling is stronger than your feeling. Because like you're getting some work done. That's cool. Their livelihood depends on you. Like if you don't pay them, they don't eat. And there's no recourse in the Philippines. There's nowhere to go for food. Family doesn't have extra in the Philippines. And so that feeling of, I don't know if I can trust this person, this employer, is stronger than your feeling of, how do I trust this person?
Right. And you can grant limited access, you even if it's a website, grant access to whatever, walk-in copy or anything like that. For us, the Philippines is mostly for administrative and marketing and social media and like producing, I don't know, a report for a client. Well, I might not want my super expensive guy to be working on this, I say, okay, well, the Filipino VA can produce a VA. So for us, it's a lot of admin stuff and marketing stuff that's done in the Philippines. And it's an easy way. And then we hire locally, let's say here, Canada, US, all the engineering force, because we're working on very large commercial projects. So that's like how we've split it and how it's helped us grow. And it's a model to consider.
Yeah, that's cool. And I talked to someone just last week that said, yeah, they have a software team and they hired an assistant for every person in the company out of the Philippines. It just made each of them more productive in what they're doing. Like, oh, that's sweet. Where like I have my entire development team in the Philippines. My development team, my marketing team, my content creation, it's all like my customer support. It's all in the Philippines, and they're really, really good. But like I love your model. Like you have people local, and then you have support people.
Yeah, which is different because since we're like a service business here, like we're keeping the core expertise here to serve as a client locally with real local expertise, but then everything admin that we can potentially delegate, marketing, we do, and we grow that side with the Philippines. Because you're more of a product company. If I was a product company, I'd probably have everything in the Philippines, except a few guys here that special superstar hire locally here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And let's say any other advice you want to give to someone who wants to build a team in the Philippines?
Yeah. So, like, do you want me to talk about how I find good people?
Perhaps, yeah, that's a good way. That's a good thing
Um,
because you like. I think the first step is to realize, okay, this country is a good country to outsource to, but like you said, it's people, and you're going to have the same issues that you have with people here. You know, sometimes the first hire is not the right hire, and you need to hire again. And there's a hiring process, and there's a filtering process. It just gives you more hiring power over there. So sometimes it can help get the business off the ground. Also, from an e-commerce point of view, sometimes they want to hear about, as a customer of ours wants to hear about the latest and greatest technique and strategy and what's hot right now, what's working right now. But I like a very holistic view and analysis of the business. And very often, actually, it's the founder that's blocking the growth of his own business because he needs to delegate more. And that's where the Philippine can really come in. So you have limited budget, yeah, but well, there you can still go and unblock your business. So yeah, filtering people would be a great topic.
okay. So let me start with um, a couple things that aren't how you find, but so everybody wants to hire a team. Everybody wants to hire a team. Start with one person. That's like, this is different than hiring someone that's going to sit next to you in the office. It's a virtual thing. And I think it's important to, if you haven't done it before, at least do it once and see if it works for you, because it doesn't work for everybody. Like some people and their personalities, this just doesn't work. Next, uh, my recommendation for people is to hire someone to do something that you know how to do as the first thing. Everybody wants to hire someone to do something you don't know how to do. Everybody wants to hire a programmer, or you want to hire whatever it is that you don't know how to do because you're really good at what you do, which to me, that it for most businesses, it's like the worst. For most business owners, it's like the worst advice I see given, which is stick with what you're really good at and outsource the rest. I'm a programmer. I graduated in computer science. Should I just stick with programming, or should I run my business and outsource the programming? I should outsource the programming, right? And so my advice to people is outsource something that you know how to do. And that's the first person you're going to hire, is to do whatever that is for you. And what you'll find is posting your job is easier, interviewing is easier, hiring is easier, giving training is easier, giving feedback is easier, getting it done is easier. And then you get time back, which is such a different concept than outsource the rest, where you're doing your work and you're managing things that you don't know how to do. And so you're not very good at managing it. And it takes
I really
time
like that. I really like that. And if you know how to do, it's likely that you're doing it right now, and that will free you time. Versus if you're not a coder and you're going to delegate coding, well, you still haven't earned any of your own time back, maybe producing reports or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I start. And that'll make the rest of what I'm about to say much, much easier. So here's how I do this. So I've defined a role and I have a task in mind. And so I know what the skill is. And so go to OnlineJobs.ph and search for your skill and spend 5 minutes looking at 20 or 30 profiles. You don't have to look into them in detail. Just, you're looking for a couple things. Like, number one, what skills exist here? Like, does this skill that I'm looking for, is this even possible? And chances are you're going to search for your skill and you're going to find like more than 1,000 profiles with that skill. And then you're going to start looking and noticing some patterns, like, oh, people that know this, they also often know this other thing. So people that know e-commerce, they also know, they know Amazon, AWS, they know FBA, or they also understand, people that know Shopify, they know this, or people that know Magento, they also have whatever it is, right? So you're looking at like what skills exist and what patterns am I seeing in skills and the things that I'm looking for. And then you're looking at salaries, because most people, when they start this, you have no idea what to pay. What should I be paying? And I'll just tell you that I have 40 people that work for me full-time. They make between $450 and $2,000 a month for full-time work. And at $450, you have like beginner, lower end people. They're doing data entry. And at the higher end, you have like people running Facebook ads for me, or a really high-end designer, or really, really good programmers, or stuff like that, right? Like higher end skilled things. And then everything in between. So you've determined, like, does the skill exist? How much should I pay? Next thing is post a job at OnlineJobs.ph, and then let people apply to your job. When you are looking at profiles, you're going to look at 20 or 30 profiles. It shouldn't take you very long. Each of them is going to take you only a few seconds. If you find ones that you really like, you can pin them. And then after you post your job, you can go and message them directly, those ones that you pinned, and say, hey, I'm looking for a person that can do this. Are you interested? So the wrong way to do this, the way that people love to do this is look at a bunch of profiles and pick out, oh, you're the one I'm going to hire. And I'm going to message you. Like, you narrow it down up front, and then you never hear from that person, because that person that you just found is working for you or working for me. And this is the great thing that you said about the Philippines, is they're very loyal. So that if they already have a job and you message them, the chances of them not responding to you are pretty high. Like, they don't just jump ship when they get another job offer. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So instead, contact a bunch of people, and you're not looking for the best person. You're looking for the best available person that you can work with. And that's important. Like, you're hiring a person here. Personality matters. Like that guy that I hired in 2005 still works for me today. I love him. I love working with him. Where I've had other people that were really skilled, but I just didn't like working with them. And that's really hard when you're talking about, I'm going to work with you for 10 years.
Yeah. Think long term. Like, okay, so it's not working well. Well, would you tolerate this for the next 20 years, 10 years? Like, well, if the answer is no, well, it's the wrong fit. So somebody may be super skilled, but it's just not a match. So, or sometime even in a company, you have some kind of a rock star, but the guy's like toxic or something, and say, hey, you got to get rid of that superstar. Even though the productivity was awesome, it's like, no, because he's demoralizing the rest of the company. Their whole productivity is going down. So this has to be a fit there for sure.
And you can find that out in the recruiting process. So here's what I do next. So when I am lazy, nobody wants to hire, right? And so I develop my entire process here based around how little time can I spend doing this and still get a great result. And so when I go to hire someone, I don't question. I've done this enough times now that I don't really question, am I going to find someone great? I'm pretty dang sure I am. So here's what I do. People apply. Everybody who follows my instructions in the job post, I will reply to them. And I will reply to them with 2, 3, 4 questions. And I'm going to let them respond to my questions. And here's what I'm going to do this 5 to 10 times, where I send them varying questions in an email, and I'm going to watch them respond. And the reason I do this is because this is a virtual relationship. It's going to be virtual. I'm never going to have a face-to-face conversation with my team. I don't do it. I never have. I can count on one hand the number of times I've gotten on a phone call with them since 2005.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I don't.
So you're a writer.
I am not a writer. I don't like writing.
Okay.
But I don't like the idea of, let's schedule a meeting, let's get on a meeting, let's talk this out. I don't like that concept more than I don't like writing. And to me, I just was reading I love what the guys at Basecamp.
Then I'm just too interested to not ask, like, how do you communicate? Is it just like asynchronous, that you record a video and you watch it, they watch it whenever they want?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost always. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To me, like, 5 people in a 1-hour meeting is not a 1-hour meeting. It's a 5-hour meeting. Was that worth 5 hours of time? Like, that's so much. And so I don't do it. And I don't have deadlines in my business. So that's a big deal, right? Like, we don't have urgency unless the website's down or something.
Yeah. You're already a published product, successful product. You just roll out whenever you want to roll out.
We roll out updates, we roll out features. Right. So here's what I see in this virtual. It's a virtual relationship. I'm going to recruit virtually. Here's what I'm looking at. If I send you 4 questions in an email and you only respond to 3 of them, well, the chances of me assigning you 4 tasks and you only doing 3 of them is really high. It doesn't work for me.
Great.
If I if I send you an email today and it takes you 3 days to respond, well, 3 days to respond after I've hired you just doesn't really work. Like I don't see you coming into the office. That doesn't work for me. But if you respond twice a day, like if you respond to me once when you first get to your computer in the morning and when you respond again at night, then awesome. Like twice a day, that's so great. And so that's another thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at like how well does what you're saying in your responses correlate with what you wrote in your profile? Because it's reasonable to have a friend help you write your OnlineJobs.ph profile. It's not reasonable to have a friend respond over and over and over and over again, right?
Right.
And what I have found is if I get 30 people applying to my job post and I go through this process, which takes me, so here's another piece of this is a live interview takes 30 minutes. It maybe takes 20 minutes for the interview, but it takes 10 minutes to schedule and show up and get it going and to bring it down, and it takes 30 minutes, right? It takes me 30 seconds to send an email.
Yeah.
If that, especially if I copy and paste, the first set of emails goes off really, really quickly. And then what I find is the more I ask, the more people drop themselves out of the recruiting process, the more I drop people out because I don't like what I'm hearing. And then I also get to see their virtual personality. Like, am I excited to get an email from this person? Or, oh, I have this like cringy feeling on, I don't want to open this email. That's not the person I want to hire, right?
Right.
And I've seen if I go through this process, I will end up with 1 to 3 people that are going to work out super, super well for me. And then I give a test task. And then at the end of this, here's the other side of the live interview. Filipinos don't want to do a live interview with you. They don't want to do it. They're scared. And this comes back to shy. If you try and do this in the beginning, you'll try and schedule 10 interviews. 5 of them won't schedule. They'll just drop out. And then of the other 5 that do schedule, 3 of them won't show up. And that's because they're scared. They're scared of being embarrassed in front of you. They know they'll understand you because they watch American TV. They watch the NBA in English. They watch Dancing with the Stars, right? Like they understand English really, really well. They're worried you won't understand them, even though some of their English is just flawless. Some are not. But if you do this at the end of the process, once you've emailed them a bunch of times, they start to trust you. And now they're willing to get on an interview. And now you can, of those who you feel good about, you can spend a little bit of time with instead of doing it with 10 people. This whole thing takes me 2 to 3 hours total time across a few days to find a great person. And then, you're negotiating salary, you're negotiating time off, you're negotiating working hours, you're negotiating, whatever it is you want to negotiate. When are they going to start? And then you say, when can you start? I can start tomorrow, sir. Sweet. Here's your first task. Right?
Yeah. I really like that technique because also you can template it, standardize it. And by the way, I use it too. But we had only 3 such templates before getting them on the interview. I see you go way further. But you're right. It's pre-templated. So it just takes 30 seconds, send an email, see what they reply, send an email, see what they reply. And all of those questions you would ask them in an interview, which is way longer. So, like here in America with the super hot job market that it's right now, it's an employee and not an employer market. That's not as good, especially if you're talking like engineering jobs and so on. I mean, you cannot do that right now here because they'll have another job in 2 days already. We cannot make people jump hoops in this kind of market here in America right now. But I see that what you're saying does work in the Philippines even right now, even though in this market, because we've been doing it. Exactly with OnlineJobs.ph with saved templates there that you have in your system. And this way we could filter out people and, where it says this job requires attention to detail. If you've read this line, send me back whatever, So that's another way of filtering people if it's truly a job that requires attention to detail. Definitely
I put that in every job post. Every job post has something that says when you apply, like make the subject line of it role name - your name or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or I might say include the word Cadillac in your title.
Yeah, put a photo of a pink Cadillac. There you go.
Add a photo of a pink Cadillac. When you that maybe like the 3rd email, I'll ask that as one of my 3 questions in that email. I'll say, hey, will you attach a photo of a pink Cadillac to your response?
How do you think they react? The person who reads that for the first time.
Okay, so this is really, really telling. And this is important, especially in the culture, like the power distance index in the culture. So if they ignore it, not a good thing. They said, this is weird. I don't think he meant this. I'm not going to do it. That's not a good response, right? A good response is, this is weird. Okay, I'll do it. Here you go. Attach a picture of a pink Cadillac. A really amazing response is, here's a picture of a pink Cadillac, but why did you ask that? That's super weird. Then you know they're willing to question. That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
super cool. So that's why I do that. That's why I do something really weird like that.
So you want to see which level of execution they'll give you on that thing. Ignore, reply, do, or also try to understand why. Why did you ask that? Okay.
And it's rare. It's rare that I'll get someone that'll question it. But when I do, I know, at least I know that level, that their power distance index is lower, which is awesome. It doesn't mean that they're the right person. You know, you still have to deal with personality. You still have to deal with
but you gain points there in the total for who's the best candidate available to hire right now. Right. Okay. I do like that process. Works well. It saves a lot of time. Again, you want to save your own time, recruit people. Okay. Let's say, what about like working hours? Like, is it reasonable to try to say, hey, you should work on US Eastern time zone, or should you try to sort of avoid that? What kind of impact it has maybe on their family lives and all that?
So that first person I hired, the agency said to me, do you want him to work on your time? And I was like, I didn't know that was an option. Sure. And so they said, great, he will. And a couple of weeks in, he was awesome. But he sends me an email and says, sir, I'm so scared, but I need to ask, would it be okay if I worked on my time zone instead of yours? Because it's affecting my health and it's affecting my family and it's affecting my work. And it's not working very well for me, but I'll continue to do it if you want me to, sir. And I was like, oh yeah, there's nothing you're doing that requires you to be on my time zone. So yeah, you can work on your time zone. So what I've seen since is, I mean, these are humans. And working the night shift is hard. However, there are a lot of people in the Philippines working the night shift and they're used to it. There's a lot of call centers there. You have T-Mobile and Comcast and tons of people that have call centers in the Philippines. You have a lot of people already working the night shift. And if you require someone to work Eastern time, then in your job post, say that. Like, this is an Eastern time shift, and I want you online during that time. So I would prefer someone who's already working that. Otherwise, we find that, so the Philippines is different. It's different than Montreal. So they're on the equator. The sun comes up really early and it gets hot really early. And so what we find is it's not uncommon for them to get up at 4:30. It's just normal. And so they'll start working at 5 a.m. And 5 a.m. is like, what time is it? It's sometime in the afternoon for me. And then what I find is other people are night owls and they just want to stay up all night. And so they'll start working at 4 p.m. And that is 9 a.m. for me, I think. And so I find that most people will overlap with me, at least for a couple hours each day. And so if I want to communicate with people live, I can. I almost never do. But so we have some people work the night shift, customer service, so we can cover around the clock shift. But most of my people just work whenever they want. And I find that I overlap with almost every one of them.
Okay, so just a few hours of overlap daily, that would be like a reasonable ask. That maybe they'll work a little bit the evening, but at least they don't have to do like a crazy night shift, impact their health and all that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And when you pay them, would you say that you should offer something in extra for like health insurance and all that? Or we just go straight with like, well, you just pay that out of your salary. Here's your monthly salary.
So in the beginning, I just recommend whatever you worked out, just pay it. Like you don't go overboard. This is one of the great things about this is there's no requirements here. When I first started doing this, so that first person was through an agency, right? I was paying them $750 a month. They were paying him $250. I didn't know that.
Ouch.
He didn't know that.
Ouch.
And today it's like you're going to pay the agency $2,000 a month. They're going to pay him $600 a month. So there's that piece of it that is, it's not that big of a deal, but it sucks. It sucks for them. It sucks for you.
Yeah, especially if the agency's making more than the guy actually doing the work,
Yeah, which they always are. There's always at least a 3 times markup in
borderline unethical.
Well, I mean, it's hard to run an agency. Like
I meant if it was just staff placement, not if it's actually like agency work. That the middleman agency is responsible and liable for the quality of the work, has guarantees and warranty, then sure, you mark up 3 times. But
even staff placement, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. I'm not going to get into it. But
yeah, okay, agreed.
So when you asked when you pay people, what?
Do you pay extra, let's say, for the health insurance, their internet, and so on, or you just say like pay that out of your salary, or you offer an extra amount per month with that? Yeah.
So when he quit, one day he came to me and said, "Sir, I can't handle the office politics of this agency, so I'm quitting." I was like, "Yeah, no, you're not quitting. That's not reasonable at all. I love you, and I will double your pay." And he was like, "Okay, sweet." And so he started working for me at $500 a month, right? And which was awesome. That's all I did. I just paid him $500 a month for years. And then one day he said, "Hey, sir, the dollar was at 50 pesos when you hire me, 50 pesos per $1. Now it's at 38. So
I was already thinking about that before you even said it.
Yeah, I took a 20% pay cut. So I'm just letting you know. Like, oh, that sucks. Let me pay you more, right? So that was something I had to recognize. I need to pay attention to at least the exchange rate somewhat.
Yeah.
And then a while later, he said, "Hey, sir, I would like to pay." So there's these 4 things that are potential here, and I'll talk about this really quickly. So you have, I would like to pay my PhilHealth, which is their socialized health insurance in the Philippines. It's not health insurance. It really just lowers their bills when they go to the hospital. And it's something they all want to pay and something they're all supposed to be paying, and it's pretty cheap. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll add a stipend to your salary. It was like $30 a month, something like that. I want to pay my SSS, which is their Social Security. And okay, cool. How much is that? It's like $10 a month. Okay, I'll pay that. And then there's this later on, years later, I found out about Pag-ibig, which I had no idea what this was, but it's like their home loan fund that everybody pays into. And then when you go to get a loan, you can get a loan from the government. And it's like $6 a month. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. So we started doing these 3 things, and it's not that much money, and we can't pay it. You can't pay it directly. You can't pay the government. So we add it to their salary and ask them to send us a receipt. And I asked my team, like, what about someone like forging receipts and just taking the money? And they're like, why would you do that? You're just cheating yourself. That's so dumb. Right. So I don't know, maybe they could be forging receipts and sending it to us and just pocketing the extra money, whatever, that's not my issue. Right. Like I did it so that they could pay their SSS and their PhilHealth and their Pag-ibig.
You pay whatever you want with it.
Yeah. Like I'm paying these benefits. Cool. Like it's super easy for me. I just add to their salary. Years later, our team started asking about health insurance. And so we started doing that. It costs us $400 per person per year. So that's pretty reasonable. And this is like HMO, like it's like you have a copay when you go to any doctor or whatever, it covers them pretty well. So again, these are totally optional things. You do not need to do this in the beginning. Keep it simple until you realize, oh yeah, I have this amazing person here and I love them and I want to take care of them.
Cool.
And then you can, so like even then I never talked to an insurance company. I told them, you find the insurance company, you tell me what you want to do and we'll pay. We'll just give you the money and you send us the receipt.
Right. Sounds good to me. And let's say when you want to pay your staff, there's a various options. Like, what do you think is the best option? And also some of those options have fees. Then who do you think should take on the fees? Should a Filipino get the fee, let's say if you use PayPal, or do you cover also that fee for them?
So yeah, there's a bunch of different options. So PayPal is like the most well-known, right? But the more people use PayPal, the more they realize, oh, this is crappy. Like there's a lot of fee involved here. Like PayPal takes 5 to 7% of the exchange.
Yeah, and it's important to break it down for your audience because you say, hey, it's 2.9%. It says on the website, but that's not exactly it because there's also a 1% extra for international, and then you may have additional fees to look into as well.
Yeah. So the two that I always recommend are wise.com, which is really, really great. It takes a little bit more setup than PayPal because you've already done the setup work of PayPal. It's still pretty simple. And Wise is a really great service just in general. And then EasyPay, which is, we built EasyPay. And that's why I'm telling you it's second so that I give you something else first. EasyPay, we designed it. We partnered with Payoneer. It's built into your OnlineJobs.ph account, which when your OnlineJobs.ph account is free, it still works. You don't have to have a subscription to pay your people with EasyPay. But we negotiated with them a whole bunch of things. We pushed them on things. So there's no transaction fee. And Wise and EasyPay are about the same on the foreign exchange rate. And they're both the best in the industry. It's about a 2% foreign exchange cost. But otherwise, there's not like Zoom, XOOM, which is owned by PayPal. And I'm not sure. I would advise people to never use Zoom. I still hear people using it. I know that over the years, they've just kicked people off because they say we're for family remittances. You may not send business transactions. And all of a sudden, you'll be using them. And then one transaction won't go through. And you'll be like, well, what do I do? And then it's going to take you 2 weeks. And then your person's struggling to eat.
Yeah, and I guess Zoom is sort of like Western Union, more or less.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what their deal is. They were intended for family remittances, which Western Union is similar to that. And Western Union's another option for sending money. And actually, over the years, Western Union used to suck. Like they have like a $20 fee or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes even more than that. And they'll ask you a question, they'll cap you, and then it's hard to send the money. Like it works, but man,
we used Western Union a few times, and they were pretty reasonable. Like their fees and stuff it was all pretty reasonable. We don't use it, but yeah. So we use EasyPay or Wise. And EasyPay is built into OnlineJobs.ph. So like when you mark people as hired, it's right there. You just click pay and super simple. Wise is also pretty simple.
Right. And there's bank wire transfer as well, which has downsides.
Yeah, that's more complicated though, because then you're dealing there. Usually there's more fees and the exchange rates are high. I mean, a wire transfer is going to cost you $45 just for the international wire transfer. At least in my bank charges me $45 for an international wire transfer. So that makes it prohibitive right there. Yeah, but maybe yours is better.
Well, the default package was for that, and they had different packages. So I have one at $15 per wire now, so that makes sense. But yes, the default was like in the 35 and 45 range, depending on the bank and the package. Same bank, different package, $15 per cent. So that kind of make it available as an option as well now for us. But yeah, it's pretty good. Okay. So like shotgun question. Anything else top of mind that you'd like to share with a company that's going to start hiring people in the Philippines?
Yeah, I have two things. So if you're still questioning, so you have people, I mean, we have people listening to this that are at varying stages, right? You have people that are like super experienced in hiring and you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what to do. You have people listening to this that have never hired someone and it's their first time. And if you're still nervous about hiring someone, you're nervous about making mistakes, I've laid out my hiring process in detail, like all the questions that I ask and what I think about and how I choose the first task and whatever. And that's all available at onevaoa.com. And it's $49 one time ever, and you can use it as many times as you want. But once you go through it once, you'll know exactly what to do. And I guarantee you find someone great, or I'll give you the $49 back. It's really good. So that's one thing. Number two is this isn't for everybody. Like I said that already, but I've seen enough personality out there of people that are like, oh man, they suck. I sent them this simple thing and they did it all wrong and I fired them. Like, okay, that's like, if you have no tolerance for mistakes or for people or whatever, then yeah, this isn't going to work for you. And for a lot of people, you kind of don't know where you fall in line if you've never had people working for you until you try it. And so it's a leap. Like it was a leap for me, at least. The first time I hired someone, it was definitely questionable for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard. And it's something you just don't know until you try it. You have to try it. And whether you use an agency or whether you use OnlineJobs.ph or whatever, I don't really care. I'd just love to see you try and hire someone, because if it works for you, it's amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it is really hiring people. So it's a great destination. As I said, you can hire people there. And it's giving you more leverage, because you say, hey, maybe I cannot yet afford a person who would free my time here locally. I can afford to have someone here help me. And then you start the process. And as the business grow, you will also hire locally some people, and you will also grow the local economy. Just like it's a win-win-win everywhere for everybody. And of course, it's hiring people. So it's not a magic bullet. Say you go on this and you click resume and boom, I've hired a magic bullet guy there, gonna just fix my business for me. It's still, you have to put all the efforts in of structuring it and the process and the training and so on. And yes, for your pitch there, totally the one VA too. I did use it, and it's very reasonable pricing overall for all of your recruitment offers there, for the crazy amount of content that you've put in it. So it's great work actually that you've done, because don't know, there's a lot of other people that can say they've impacted so much, like a country alone. You've built the whole OnlineJob.ph website. Like now you have like millions of people using it and so on. There's an impact even on the country level now from the website. It's pretty big.
Yeah, we have with 2 million Filipino profiles, it's like 8% of the workforce that have a profile there.
Yeah.
And I know that we've brought hundreds of thousands of jobs, which, there's 100 million people in the Philippines. It's a big deal. Yeah. It's cool. It's cool for me every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. You're literally helping people's life there. I think there's a good like human mission on the side of the product mission there, which is a very nice combo. Yeah. So we're coming on top of the hour. Anything else top of mind you'd like to share with people, John?
You just have to jump in. Most people listening to this are going to say, I'm not ready for that, which is cool. I get it. That's what I did. I've never had someone say to me, oh, I wish I would have done this later. No. I have people that almost every day I get an email from someone that says, I wish I would have done this sooner. This is so amazing. But like you have to do it with your timing. So.
Totally agree. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you, John, what's the best way?
Yeah, so the best way is through email. You can email me, john@onlinejobs.ph. I hate social media, but you can contact me through social media. What'll happen is someone on my team will take a screenshot of it and they'll email it to me, and I'll respond to your email. Because I don't log into Facebook or Instagram, even though I post on there all the time. I don't really know. Email's the best.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing all your knowledge with us today, John. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.